Sufferings and Miseries. The world is full of sorrows and miseries. Some are groaning under pain, a few are lamenting over the death of their dear ones. Others feel worried by poverty, ill health, and afflictions. There may be only a few who seem to be favored by fortune, but even they have their own troubles and miseries, troubles and worries. A poor man is worried at not being rich. A rich man is worried at not being richer. And a very rich man is worried at not being the richest. There is, in short, no limit to it. This is the routine course of nature. One who is born is in tumult and disorder because contradictions presented themselves the very moment he came into existence. Now, one who attaches himself unduly to them is found to be held fast in their trammels. If you ask him to come out of it, he will only cry like one who clings to a tree, saying that the tree does not leave him. Yudhishthira had very correctly said in reply to the Yaksha's question that the strangest thing in the world is that people see others dying but never think that they will also have to taste death soon. But my answer to that question would have been that though people see their own disorder, they still though people see their own disorder, still they lie reposing on the unbalanced pillow. That is perhaps the strangest thing to me. Raja Bhartrihari, when awakened to godly thought, had a pillow to rest his head upon. But after some time, he gave it up thinking it is not worthwhile. The pillow stands for support, the divine support, or in other words, reliance upon God, giving up everything of his own. Is it not of the greatest value if it could be possible in ordinary Grihastha life? How to remain constantly busy with divine thought while doing one's worldly duties. One might say that the two being contrary to each other cannot be taken up together. But that is not the case. It is quite possible and easily practicable if one takes it up in earnest. In due course, godly wisdom awakens in him and he begins to work with it in all his activities of life. I do not think that one who exerts himself for the achievement of realization while attending to his household duties shall be a loser in any way. On the other hand, he will be soaring high with both wings outstretched on towards his eternal homeland. I'll take a pause here. Since we came into the world, we have never been free from miseries, nor shall we ever be till we have secured our return to the homeland. Even avatars like Rama and Krishna had to undergo miseries so long as they were on this earth. In fact, deliverance from pain and sorrow is the main pursuit of life. Mahatma Gandhi is said to have once remarked, "The way to freedom lies through jail." If we take this world to be a prison house, the above saying fits in quite appropriately in the spiritual sense also. In utter despair, people often wish for an end to life. But in my opinion, it should be far better under such circumstances to pray to God to bestow a life which might be parallel to death. Should I go ahead?
Yeah, unless one wants to add something.
What does
I
it
remember
mean?
a story Revered Sir had told about a guru on his deathbed, and he knowing that his next life is going to be a pig's life. So in that context, basically, that story, I think most of us will be aware,
Yeah.
where the guru instructs his disciple that he doesn't want to, take birth as a pig. So I think he says that the seventh pig that will be born will be me. And the moment you see it being born, you kill it, because I don't want to be born as a pig or live a life as a pig. So the disciples rush to the other side of the door, where other side of the road, where the pig is delivering the piglets. And the moment that seventh pig is born, it basically, the moment it is born, the miseries start. So he is afraid of getting killed. And I think the summary was that the moment we are here, we are already into that suffering mode. So uh, that's what the sort of this paragraph is also kind of summarizing that once we are born, then anyway we have to suffer and we have to go through it.
I think it was related with the liberation. So he said that he is done with all the things, almost close to liberation, and the only thing is he has to be born as a pig. And then if you kill me, I will be liberated. But then as soon as he gets reborn as a pig, the disciple starts worshipping him. So
Yeah, I
he's
mean
not getting
they also, they feel that it's a guru, so how can they kill?
right.
So I mean, yeah.
So he does not get liberated, and the miseries continue.
The other part of the story which I heard around this was that like it takes some time for the disciple to reach there, and then he's enjoying with his brothers actually. And then like when the disciple comes, he says, "No, I want to enjoy this life."
Okay.
Yeah, I think that is the story, because the disciples delayed in killing him.
Yeah, they take some time to reach on the other side of the road.
Yeah, because what you said is also right, because the disciples thought this is the guru and they just do their salutation to the guru.
Guru. Correct.
And meanwhile, the guru changed his mind.
Correct.
So that is such a short time is enough to change the mind.
Mind, correct. And yeah, correct. Sure. So I'll read it. Sufferings and miseries have their own place in life. Everyone has his share of it. Even sages of eminence had their own. Had there been no sufferings in the world, man's thought could never have gone up to the reverse side of it. That is the bliss. Thus, man's affliction offers him inducement for finding out means of emancipation. In other words, they serve as stimulants. We know that coal can be transformed into diamond. That means that a change in the setup gives things a new appearance. A thing becomes useful and pleasing when its setup is right, while it becomes painful and ugly if it is wrong. The same is the case with afflictions. Our discriminative faculty is so much overshadowed by the hankerings of the mind that we have become quite blind to the real values of things concerned within life. As a matter of fact, everything in life is for our ultimate good. Only we have to learn their proper utilization so as to turn them to our advantage. But unfortunately, we have all along been going the wrong way, led by the misdirected tendencies of the mind. We have been taking a crude view of everything, corresponding with the baser inclinations of the mind. everything has gone on growing denser and grosser to our view. The heart and the brain, being influenced thereby, began to contract the same defect. Covering after covering began to set in, obscuring reality from view. This will go on till accidentally a time may come when a gush of reality having blown into the heart may cause an awakening within. It is then that man comes to a proper understanding of the real values and feels induced to resort to mending his disturbed state. So, anything in this paragraph? I guess I will go ahead. When man first assumed his physical form, he brought with him the thing opposed to the real nature of his being. That means both the opposites were intertwined to give it a proper shape. It appeared in the form of an outburst, similar to that caused by the contact of fire and water. When supplemented by the flow of air, it went on smoldering and increased the force of the outburst. The outburst is nothing but the action of the force coming in contact with the soul, thus exhibiting a display of the elements. Reality was lost sight of. Just imagine what the reverse use of things finally resulted in. We took into account neither the cause nor the effect thereof to trace out the origin of this degradation. How were these actions caused? The divine will to affect creation began to manifest itself. The thought of diversity, which was opposed to that of unity, became active and began to acquire prominence. Activity sprang up, both combining together increased the force and action started. Man's soul possessed consciousness. This consciousness was the direct result of the divine will, which led to formation of things. The result of our will was that by the application of our thought power, we made the things we had brought with us. Thus, all that we had around us was that which was opposed to the real nature of the soul. Peace is the characteristic of the soul, while unrest, the opposite of peace, is that of the body. But we ourselves were the doers of all this, and this was our own work. Now, the outburst which resulted from these actions and counteractions appeared to us in the form of sufferings and miseries. If we somehow cease supplying them with power, they will begin to wither away like unwatered plants. This can become possible only when we divert our thought, which is associated with body consciousness, towards the soul. The things which through our wrongdoings have assumed the form of miseries and afflictions will begin to wither away, or shall be over influenced by the effect of superior consciousness. They shall in course of time be entirely cleared, and their outburst shall also cease. Man will then be in a state of soul consciousness, which was originally enlivened by the effect of divine will.
Just a clarification here. So the outbursts here would mean the mental vrittis.
I think anything against the outburst is, you know, seemingly what looks like is anything against. So the soul is one part and the other part is basically the outburst, which appears in the form of suffering as misery and miseries. That's what Babuji seems to suggest here.
No, what the master says is that we came with the real thing, and at the same time we brought the opposite thing also with that, and that created the outburst, and that created the all the diversity without ignoring the unitary theory of only the soul and the divine together, Advaita. So this diversity has created the sufferings and the miseries. When we stick to the real thing, which is the real consciousness, all these things will disappear. What you said is that the outer sphere is our making.
Okay.
All of us have come with the real thing, actually, the divine. So we made our creation also added to that, and that created the problem. So when we dissolve our creation, what remains is only the divine. So the sufferings will disappear. That's how I understood.
Okay.
Raji says about the samskaras that we brought while we, or it is referring to the first creation of ourselves.
Yeah, with the first creation, he says that when man first assumed his physical form, he brought with him the thing opposite to the real nature of his being. So both the opposites were intertwined to give it a proper shape. That is the creation. So when our things, the opposite things is dissolved, the real thing only remains. So it has come at the time of the creation itself.
Actually, sir, in the following paragraph, he explains that what we got along with us was also pure. And so if I read, I think it will clarify it further, in the next paragraph. So he says there was nothing wrong with the things that descended to us. The wrong got into them only by the effect of our misutilization of those purest things, which finally became transformed into afflictions. So any samskara that we're talking about would possibly be misutilization because of misutilization of those purest things.
Yeah, what we try to create is a diversity because of our thought processes and other things. Instead of the unity, which is the Advaita, there is no separation between the divine and us. So we try to create a diversity, but saying that each one is different. So that causes the problem. When we remember that we are all one, there is no problem at all. Even if that creation is there, when we think that the whole creation is one, there is no problem.
Thanks. I'll should I read it then?
Ramesh, what do you say?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Yes, I got clarified. Thank you, sir.
So I'll repeat. There was nothing wrong with the things that descended to us. The wrong got into them only by the effect of our misutilization of those purest things, which finally became transformed into afflictions. Now we stand in need of some cure for them. I may say again that it is sickness alone that revives the idea of health in the heart. Now let us see how the things known as miseries which are opposed to the true character of reality, grew strong and powerful. These being under our control get power from us, while the other being under God's control gets power from Him. The more we are attentive towards them, that is miseries, the stronger they grow by the effect of our thought. In course of time, they become strong enough to overshadow all our feelings and emotions. The only solution would be to turn towards God, which is the greatest power. The divine power will then begin to flow in, making afflictions totally ineffective. By and by, the man begins to acquire the state so highly spoken of in the Gita, at which he ceases to feel himself as a doer. Further advancement in that state means the stopping of the formation of samskaras, which leads him to the state of Jivan Moksha. A simple thing can be achieved by simple means only. In fact, afflictions, which are commonly taken as the reverse side of bliss, form the only thing that revives in our heart a consciousness of the real and helps us to march along the path of peace and progress. Everyone has his own afflictions. I too had mine, about which I had once written to my master. His reply quoted below is worth writing in gold. It is good to be put to worries. The home is the training center for submission and endurance. To put up patiently with the day-to-day events of life is the highest form of penance and sacrifice. So instead of anger and resentment, one must cultivate in himself a meek temperament. Meekness refers to that feeling of mind in which, on being rebuked by others, one feels his own self to be at fault, and for which he has to yield to what is meted out to him. For others, aloofness, solitude, and dissociation might be the means for cultivating contentment, endurance, and freedom from the entanglements of life. Whereas for us, to put up with the taunts and rebukes of the family, friends, and society is the greatest form of penance and sacrifice. Should I go ahead?
Yeah.
At another place, he wrote to one of his associates, as for afflictions and worries, I too had mine, which might perhaps be shocking to another. Often I had nothing for my meals. I had a number of children and dependents to support. Besides, at times, I had to help others too, which I could not avoid. The entire responsibility was upon me alone, and I had to manage all that and provide for all requirements. I may also tell you that sometimes there was only one quilt, and that too with badly mutilated padding to cover the whole family. But I took it as a display of misfortune only, which passed away with time. I felt that all this was absolutely of no importance to me as compared to reality, which was predominant in all my being. So I ever smiled on them, thinking them to be the very way of salvation. I'll go ahead.
Yeah.
Constant brooding over our own afflictions increases our worries. Our attachment to them develops and we become rigidly entangled in their intricacies. This hampers our onward progress and the chance of success becomes slight. An alternative course suggested by certain misdirected teachers is that of deserting worldly responsibilities by breaking off from the family, friends, and society. As a matter of fact, even then, they have their particular worries and entanglements. That is therefore no solution of the problem. On the other hand, it promotes greater evils in the form of arrogance, pride, and prejudice, the worst poisons for a spiritual life. None in the world is free from worries. The presence of afflictions is in fact a positive proof of the very existence of man. Worries are really the result of the unbalanced activity which had originally brought man into existence. This is the interplay of the forces of nature causing expansions and contractions, by the effect of which layer after layer began to be formed. Now, if one keeps his entire attention located on them, thinking that thereby he may minimize their effect, it is almost impossible. Ages may be lost in the pursuit, not to speak of this one life. On the other hand, he will go on fabricating greater intricacies by his own actions. That is really the misutilization of the powers bestowed on us by nature. If we keep ourselves concerned with the clearing off of the limitations set up by the expansion and contraction of the forces, our purpose may be rightly served. It is therefore necessary for us to start from the level where nature's forces begin to promote consciousness in man. The reason why people are not able to undertake it is that they do not attach any importance to it, because they have no definite aim or purpose in view. An archer can never hit at the mark unless he fixes his keen attention on the object to be hit. I'll read ahead. I have my own experiences of sufferings and miseries, and after pondering over them a good deal, I have now come to the conclusion that suffering and diseases are the boons of nature in disguise, which helps deliverance from the effects of samskaras. When one is cleared of their remnants, spiritual progress goes on unabated, provided one's mind is inwardly inclined towards it. None is required to give up the normal activities of life connected with this worldly living, but needs only to be busy alongside with it for the attainment of that which is finally to be attained. I wonder why people do not feel interested in this matter, which is of such vital importance. Some I find busy with prayer, prarthana, for the development of bhakti in them, and wish to come into the world again and again for the purpose. I appreciate their idea of devotion, but the latter portion, that is coming again and again, is not understandable to me at all. It seems to be devoid of any sense, purpose, or object. What one should actually do is to surrender oneself to God. The thing may seem to be difficult in the beginning, but it is really the easiest. I'll go ahead. I find people complaining that they do not find time for worship or meditation. But I feel, and everybody knows well, that they always get sufficient time for their illness, worries, and physical needs. The reason is that all these things are of greater importance to them than the divine duties. As a matter of fact, a man can keep himself busy with divine thoughts every moment without offering any hindrance to his worldly activities. If one practices it so as to form this habit, it becomes so easy and natural with him that he would not like to part with it even for a moment. I give you all a very helpful hint. Before taking up a certain work, think of him for a while in the sense that he himself is doing it. It is the simplest method, and I should like you all to follow it in right earnest. An intense craving is therefore essential under all circumstances, and for that, meditation is an indispensable fact. If one gets firmly settled on it, his problem may finally be solved. The easiest way to increase the intensity of craving is to take it up even in an artificial way, even if it is not actually present in the mind. In course of time, by constant practice, the artificial feeling will become true and genuine. The restless tendencies of the mind have gone up to an abnormal level in the present age. One may be seen worried for this scanty means, another for his growing wants, still another for his health, comfort, fame, etc. Even the rich who are luckily bestowed with most of what they crave for have worries of one type or another. None perhaps might be having rest and peace in the world. Everyone is faced with his own problems, related mostly with his personal wants and desires, which create for him miseries and troubles. A man remains entangled in them, finding no way out. But the bravest is he who is happy in all cases and under all circumstances. Great sages have given preference above all to poverty and hardship. One of the ancient sages is known to have prayed to God to bestow upon him all the miseries of the world. Such have been the souls who could have made the highest progress and finally attained a permanent life of eternal bliss. thoughts which one makes or has made remain afloat in the Brahman Mandal and transform into energy. At times, they strike a man's heart, causing their impressions in accordance with the capacity and nature of the man. But if he remains inattentive towards them, their intensity is lost and they become almost ineffective. If we form the habit of paying no heed to them, they will have no effect upon us. A saint or a Mahatma is not in any way different from an ordinary worldly man, except that his mind and senses are in a well-disciplined state and wholly under his control. He remains free from the effect of the different hues and colors of the world and remains ever merged in his own, the one colorlessness. He attains a state of contentment and settledness, which breathe in an atmosphere of peace and calmness. Usually, worldly tangles are a cause of worry, but for the most part, to those alone who attach undue importance to them. If a man turns his attention away from miseries and afflictions, their painful effect is considerably reduced. One must therefore make it his habit not to attach himself unduly to them. Then alone shall he be happy and contented under all circumstances. Just as a man possesses a variety of things for his use, some of which might be distasteful and unpleasant, yet he keeps them all well arranged and safe at their proper places. So must be the case with a man in respect of his belongings, which include miseries and afflictions also. The human body is the soul's residence. All things, whether pleasant or repulsive, are there, all meant to serve our purpose at times. It is we who are to keep them in proper order, so as to serve our purpose at need. It is in fact the disorderliness in their utilization and arrangement that creates trouble, not the thing in itself. That is the case with afflictions. They can be to our advantage if they are properly handled, and harmful to our cause if wrongly used. The analogy of keeping, just like we keep unpleasant things in an orderly manner, saying should keep the miseries and afflictions in the same way. So very enlightening paragraph. The effective solution of the problem is to give them up in the charge of a higher soul and to dissociate yourself from them altogether. Cares, anxieties, and worries will then subside, and nothing but duty will remain to you. That conveys the idea of surrender, which is the sum total of the entire sadhana. Tastelessness had its own peculiar taste, which too one must have a taste of. Everyone is involved to some extent, at least in worries. Happy are those who pay no heed to them, but try to remain satisfied and contented under all circumstances. The only way for that is to keep one's self concerned solely with the great power, with a feeling of love and attachment. The superfluities may be treated as the barking of dogs. Everything in him will then begin to get regulated, assuming a state of moderation and balance. That is the exact sense implied in the term the transformation of mind.
I think we can take a pause here for today and at least discuss whatever questions people have or anything to be added. The one thing in the earlier paragraph is the human body is the soul's residence. And earlier also it says that the soul is purity. So the more we feel that, right? And this is something we feel in whenever we are meditating. And we don't feel that we are body. And how much of that feeling is something that we are able to keep with us during the day. And here when he mentions effective solution to the problem is to give them up to the charge of a higher soul and to disassociate yourself from them altogether. That means to the master or to guru, to the charge of the higher soul, right? Anything you want to add, sir?
So he says only the surrender only will solve the problem.
Any questions?
Love and attachment. Love and attachment has been said. So why love and attachments are both said when we have to get attached, when we have to solely get concerned with the great power.
Vivek, did you get the question?
So I think that statement of the way for that is to keep oneself concerned solely with great power with a feeling of love and attachment. So he's saying, Bhajanji is saying, I think why attachment? I think attachment to the great power is what it is talking about. So it's basically the purpose that we have, right? We are supposed to be attachment. The word may seem misleading because we use it in the negative sense, as in worldly attachments. But here it means attachment or love, rather love and devotion towards the power, the great power. That is what it really means in that particular sentence. It's we are used to using attachment for the negative, for the worldly things. So I think is that right, Majanji?
No, I just wanted to get clarified. What is the action of love and action of attachment different? How it is different?
Basically, in love, you love for the sake of love itself. You don't expect anything in return.
Ah.
In attachment, you have
Okay.
your expectation there.
Okay. Mhm.
Okay then. Yeah, we'll see you next Sunday. Thank you. Namaste.
Okay. Thank you. Namaste.